Okay, welcome to our next panel. The title is The Skills Gap, What Makes a Candidate Hireable in 2026. So this discussion will explore the widening gap between skills employers are looking for and those currently available on the Greek labor market. We'll hear how academia can become more closely aligned with the market needs, drawing on the American College of Greece's expertise. We'll hear a personal perspective on building Greece's first biotech investment fund and the challenges of finding highly skilled talent. And we'll hear about the impact of programs such as regeneration in preparing young people for meaningful careers and helping bridge the gap. And we have quite the rock star of lineup of panelists here that I will briefly introduce and then invite them to make opening statements. So first we have Nikos Koumetis. Until recently, Nikos served as the Coca-Cola Company's president of its Europe operating unit. This followed a distinguished international career leading business across Europe, Canada, and the Middle East and Africa. He currently serves on the boards of Canada Goose, Societe BIC, and is an executive committee member of THI, we're proud to say. Nikos also co-founded Regeneration, one of Greece's leading employability and upscaling initiatives. And I just found out today Nico was recently honored as American College of Greece's most distinguished graduate. So it's a nice tie-in to that. Congratulations, Nico. Speaking of American College of Greece, we have none other than the 8th president of the American College of Greece, Dr. Edward Wingenbach, who became president in 2025. Previously, he served as president of Hampshire College in the United States, where he led an institutional turnaround while strengthening academic innovation, fundraising, and sustainability, and we're looking forward to the great things he'll be doing here at ACG. He holds a PhD in political science from the University of Notre Dame. And thirdly, we have Dr. Simos Simeonidis. He's the managing partner and co-founder of KOS Biotechnology Partners, Greece's first biotech-focused investment firm. Now, remember that first. Not only the first investment firm, KOS recently announced the third closing of its inaugural fund at $123 million, making it the largest debut venture capital fund ever raised in Greece, and one of the largest first-time life sciences funds launched ever in Europe. The fund focuses on bringing U.S. biopharma expertise and capital to emerging life sciences opportunities across Greece and the broader European market. Following an academic career at the University of Chicago, Columbia University, and Harvard Medical School, he held senior leadership and investment roles across the global biopharmaceutical industry and investment community. He brings more than 3 decades of experience at the intersection of science, innovation, and venture investing. He's also, we're proud to say, a Lord Byron member of the Hellenic Initiative. So please welcome our distinguished panel. So let me begin by inviting you gentlemen to make 2 minutes of opening remarks. Nico, if we could start with you.
Yes, first, let me start that you cannot imagine how happy I am for today. I was dreaming about bringing THI and ACG together for years now, and this dream is coming through, and I think we can do a lot of more things together. So super happy to be here, especially in this day. And the second remark I would make is the previous panels were very insightful on what we can do, and we can do more. I think the name of the game is more coordination and more collaboration. And hopefully we will talk more about it today. But if we miss this, this is really what we need to do more of. And this is where THI and ACG and other institutions can really help on bringing different parties and people together to collaborate more and better.
Thank you. Ed?
Well, first, thanks for being here today, and I want to welcome everybody to the American College of Greece. I hope you have a chance to, during breaks, to wander around a little bit. This is a really extraordinary place and quite beautiful place to spend some time. I think I was listening to the earlier panels this morning, and it resonated quite a bit with how I'm thinking about and how I think higher education needs to think about what skills a modern workforce needs. And we'll talk more about that, but I think the most important thing that I hear from this is that right now is a moment where the American approach to particularly undergraduate education is perfectly suited to the skills that employers and companies need, right? That is, this idea that we've heard in both panels of some version of forget what you've learned or don't focus on the content, which, okay, it hurts a little bit as a former professor, but it's the positive version of that, and this is what American education does so well and why it's so important that we do this here in Greece and influence higher education in Greece, is that the purpose and focus of higher education in the US is about problem solving and application, right? Expertise is important, disciplinary knowledge is important, but it's important as a means to an end, right? And that's the sort of mental shift that education needs to take in order to prepare graduates to be effective in an unpredictable and rapidly changing economy.
Great. Simo.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, President, for having us here. Thank you all for being here. I'll say two things. The first one, because I see a lot of young people in the audience, a quick plug for you joining THI Young Leaders. I've been in the US for 40 years. I left here when I was 19 in 1988, almost 40 years. And this is the only organization that I contribute to financially. It's a top-notch place that has the highest quality of Greek Americans. You know where your money is going. I've been to the places where the money is being invested in. So for the young people, look up THI Young Leaders and you should join. You're going to have some amazing people around you that want the same things that you do. The other thing I'll say, people were talking about upskilling and changing what you're doing. I'm a real example of that. I left Greece in '88, started a community college in Greece. Sorry, in the U.S. I didn't go the traditional route, and my goal was to become a professor. I wanted to do biomedical research, and I ended up doing that in 2001. I had a faculty position at Harvard Medical School, and I thought I had achieved all of my life's dreams. I couldn't imagine, doing something more or doing something different. And during that time, I got exposed to the business side of what I was doing, biomedical research, and fell in love with it. But I had no skills other than my biomedical skills, and it took me a while. I came from a family where nobody had gone to college, so my Greek-American family in Chicago, they own restaurants and fruit markets. Nobody had gone to college. So it took me a while to find my way, but I did find my way to an MBA program, changed what I did. I didn't forget what I was doing before. Actually, what I did before was a big part what I'm doing now, but combining one skill set with another is such a powerful combination. It changed my life. It's the best professional decision I've ever made. So I encourage people that are engineers or philosophers to see what else might interest them. And if they're doing something they're not fulfilled with, don't be afraid to take a step back. My mom used to say, when I made that career change, she said, "Oh my God, I was telling my friends, you're a professor at Harvard. Now you're a student," because I went from one day to being a faculty to being an MBA student. I took $200,000 in debt. So don't be afraid to do that. I mean, your life could change for the better, and good luck.
Thank you, Simos, and thank you for your kind words about THI. So for the first question, let me start with Nico. During your remarkable career at Coca-Cola, you've evaluated and hired talent all across dozens of markets. When you compare a young Greek candidate to a peer elsewhere in Europe, what's the actual gap? Is it skills? Is it confidence? Is it opportunity? Or is it something else entirely?
Yes, that's a very interesting question, because actually I have put people during my time in Coke in more than 100 countries, right? So, and I keep talking about that because the most remarkable thing is probably the most successful expatriates across most of those countries were Greeks.
Wow. So
Yes.
of 100 markets, some of the most successful candidate was a
Yes,
Greece.
not all of them, but I think that there must have been at least 40 countries where we exported Greeks.
Unbelievable.
And they did extremely well in all the cases. Kostas and Stavros that you saw in the previous panel is a good case, right? Because they both worked in Coke, they both had an amazing career, international career starting from Coke. So definitely from my experience, the issue is not intelligence, definitely, and is not any issue with adaptability, because I have seen that Greeks adapted very well to the new environment. I think the main issue, especially for young graduates, is really confidence and experiences. Unfortunately, Greece is a small country, right? And small country has less opportunities than big countries. Plus, in other countries, especially in some European countries, they have fantastic internship and mentorship programs that we still don't have so much in Greece. So the big issue, as I said, is not really intelligence, is not entrepreneurship, is more exposure and confidence. And that's why we are trying also at ACG and through regeneration to build all those experiences needed to increase the confidence. And at regeneration specifically, so what we do in regeneration, one of the main areas is to train people. So we have trained around 51,000 people and assessed. And the other is to place them into jobs. But the most important is not that. Don't forget that if you don't train people as to be ready when they start their first job, then they have more than 50% chances that they don't stay long because they are not ready. So the readiness part is something that we are working on really late in regeneration, whether it is the first 90 days, whether it is what to wear in the office, or, you behave accordingly, because things like that can change, your status very fast in your first job. So to summarize, it's not a problem of IQ, it's not a problem of EQ, it's not a problem of entrepreneurship, it's more a problem of exposure and confidence that we really need to collaborate, hence my point, as I started on coordination, collaborate together to really see how we build this confidence and exposure that the young graduates really need.
Wonderful, interesting. Next question is to Ed. So ACG sits the intersection of Greek and American higher ed models. What specifically is ACG doing differently to close the gap between what employers need and what graduates walk out with? And what would you say to universities that think employability is not really their job?
Let me take that second part first, because I think it drives me a little crazy to hear when I hear that from people. I mean, broadly, what is the mission of a university, right? In any country, right? The mission of the university is not to serve itself. We are nonprofit institutions. It's not to serve our faculty, right? We are here to serve society. Right? So we have different versions of this mission, but the mission of every university is essentially to serve the common good, first of their region and their country, and then globally. How do you do that if you're not paying attention carefully and intentionally to what your community needs, right? So what does Greece need more than anything? It needs to take all this amazing talent and potential that is in this, that is overrepresented in this very small country, help them unlock that potential to contribute to improving our society and our future, and to do it in a way that keeps people here, right? If you don't think that's your mission as a university in Greece, I don't know what you think your job is, right? So I don't mean to be cynical about or to be aggressive about that, but I just think it's obviously that is our job, because our job is to contribute to our communities and to our futures. And the best way to do that is to prepare people to contribute to the economy. Now, what are some of the things that we're doing specifically? There's a range of things. I'll just touch on a couple of them. One is that as a private institution that has an American ethos, we try to work very closely with people in the economy here in Greece to talk to employers, to understand what are they looking for, right? What are the kinds of, not just skills, but also capabilities, and what kinds of traits are they looking for in our graduates? Because we have a duty to our graduates as well to try to launch them successfully. And you can only build a curriculum if you're in communication with to put it in a more business-oriented way, you have to know what your customers want, right, from your product. And you can only know what your customers want if you talk to your customers, right? And then you evaluate whether you are providing them, in our case, graduates, with the product they need. That also means that you have to be flexible in the way that you structure the learning experiences of your students. And that's a key advantage that we have as an American-style institution, where if something's not working this semester, we can change it. If something's not working, in a course of study, we can change it. The third thing I would say is that our focus and emphasis, I think, is a broad ethos across the institution, both DeRee and Alba, but also Pierce, is that what we're really trying to cultivate in students is a combination of curiosity and character. Right? I've been meeting with a lot of CEOs and venture capitalists and people that are helping manage the Greek economy, and I ask them what they want. And I hear some version of that over and over again. What I want is somebody who wants to learn, right? Who's curious, who asks, who's motivated by questions, right? And interested in solving problems. And I don't particularly care about what precise skills they have to get there. What I care about is that curiosity. And then they need to have character. They need to have the ability to stick, to be honest, to be diligent, to work at a task, to have to approach things with rigor, right? And so what we're developing through various disciplinary approaches, majors, minors, et cetera, are a means to that outcome. Can you walk into a business enterprise and be enthusiastic about whatever questions and problems are showing up that day, and have the capacity to work through them? I'll say one last thing, and then, which is another part of our mission is to help infuse that approach into the Greek public university system. Right? I mean, we have 9,000 students, but there are many, many more students in the Greek university system, which is an outstanding, high-quality research enterprise. But the best students in the Greek public universities need to learn these, I hate this word, but sort of soft skills, right? They have to know how to do this, and they're not trained at that. So one of our priorities is we have over 1,000 students from the Greek universities studying here in parallel study. So usually the top students at the National University, at the Polytechnic, at Pantheon. And they come here because they want to develop those skills, and they want to have access to career services, and they want to be able to do group projects and make presentations and and deal with ambiguity and unstructured problems, which is at the core of an American liberal arts education. And so the best students at Greece public universities know that they need that, and they come here to get it. And fortunately, we can give them scholarships to do it.
Right. Great stuff. Simo, you're building, as I mentioned before, Greece's first biotech investment fund from scratch. So when you go looking for specific talent a fund like that needs, scientific, financial, operational, where does the pipeline break down, or does it? Is it a skills problem? Is it a those people left the country problem, or both? What do you find?
I would say it's not the scientific or the financial, it's more the operational. Biotech is an industry that doesn't exist in Greece today. We have all the components to build one, a very successful one. We have very well-trained scientists. Our universities produce very good chemists, biologists, physicians, statisticians, chemical engineers. These are like the 5 top specialties you need. So these people are really good. Financially, we have strong financial schools. Because the industry doesn't exist, we don't have people that have worked in biotech. So we have people that are either academics or have worked in pharma industry. And for pharma, unfortunately, for Greece, it means the generics industry. And I don't mean that as a negative for the generics industry. We have a very robust, very strong generics industry, but it's not the same as designing and building and discovering new drugs. We don't have that. So unfortunately, the people that have the operational expertise are not here. The Greeks, actually in the US, we have an extremely strong representation at the highest level, in the mid-level, but also we have people like Albert Bourla, Nick Galakatos, John Maraganore, the list, George Yankopoulos. We have people that are global leaders of biotech. So the expertise is out there. The problem is that most of these people have left the country. So when we're investing in a company, so our model is to invest in US companies and bring a part of the R&D to Greece. And the carrot is that you can hire 3 or 4 or 5 people in Greece to do the basic research for the price of one in Boston or San Francisco. And these people are good. We're just starting to do this, so we have to have some successes. We have to have a few companies hire people, and then the third company will call the CEO of the other company and say, how are the Greeks? Simo says that they have good scientists. Is that true? And we strongly believe they're going to be pleasantly surprised. But it's going to take some time. So it's kind of like we have to, as I say, ride the bicycle while we're building it. But I've been in the U.S. for 40 years. My partner has been in the U.S. for 15. He moved back last year before we even started the fund. We were strong believers. This whole process started with the Prime Minister's initiative 6 years ago during COVID. He put together this team of Greece's best top people in the U.S., all the people that I mentioned. Me and Alex, my partner, were the people taking notes, but we got to be in that group, and we put together this study which showed that Greece can have a viable biotech industry if we invest the right way, and actually our fund is half funded by the state. The Sovereign Fund of Funds for Greece gave us 62 of the 124 million. So the Prime Minister and his team have been on top of this. We met with him and Albert Bourla, George Yankopoulos at the Pfizer headquarters a few months ago. He reiterated his, we think Greece is going to build a biotech industry. It's going to take a decade or so, but this is a long-term process, and we think this can be one of the more significant industries for the country.
Great. I have 2 more questions that I'll ask each of you. Let's talk incentives. So employers want ready-made talent, universities are graded on academic output, and young people want a real shot at a career without leaving the country. So where's the disconnect? Who's actually accountable for closing this gap? And is it possible for ACG, Regeneration, investors like Kos to work off the same playbook instead of in parallel? Let's start with Simos on that answer.
I think it is. Yeah, I think we should work together. The Greece of today is so much better than the Greece that I left 40 years ago. Especially the past few years have been transformative. And we have new blood. I'm a big believer in in you guys, the new generation, the people over 20 years old and the younger ones. They're really the future. You need people like the people in this panel to provide exposure, as Nico said. Having exposure makes a big difference. Having a 3-month internship can really transform who you are because you learn the skills. You'll prove that you have the skills. So working, actually Ed and I had talked in the past about, having some DIRI students come do internships, select, the best people to come in, do something that they want and decide whether they like it and prove that they're good and either be hired in the organization or go somewhere else and say, you know what, there's no spot for me there, but I know how to do this job. So I think so. I think we can and should work together and address that gap.
Ed, what do you think?
Well, I think the key aspect of that question is the element of accountability, right? We all, I think, agree on what the outcome should be, what we're trying to accomplish. Where are the incentives and who's held accountable for those? And I think the step for me behind then accountability and incentives is social structures, right? So I'm having this experience right now where we're, trying to work to establish a government recognized private university, right? And I'm recognizing there that still the systems that are designed to control for what is considered to be quality in higher education in Greece are very slow and very, very focused on defined, inflexible pathways, right? And so I think there's still some work to be done educationally here to introduce into the broader Greek system a sense of responsiveness and flexibility and freedom and entrepreneurial approaches in building educational structures that can make it possible to be accountable then. Because right now I think there's a kind of sense that if you look again at the Greek university system, including privates and publics writ broadly, where do we do well? We do well in research because there's a clear sense of accountability for what that looks like. Where are you in the rankings? How many top papers have you published? How many grants have you received? We can measure all that. We don't have a similar system in place for how do we produce graduates who are ready and able to be innovators in the economy from day one, in part because we're less clear about what that looks like, right? So part of what we need to do is do a better job of developing simple measurements to define as clearly as we can, as we do other elements like research, about what it means to have a flexible, highly functioning educational system. And I think we have examples of that, and we can show you what it looks like in our context. I think it just needs to be more broadly adopted. And the government and the current government is working in that direction.
Right. Nico, what are your thoughts?
So actually the nature of your question reveals the problem because if you think about it, universities say that they produce fantastic talent, right? Graduates. Then the graduates say we cannot find jobs. And then the companies say that we don't know where this talent is because we are lacking employees, right? So that's the nature of the problem. And I think the answer of this is really, as I started in this panel, we really need more coordination and collaboration. Because to solve that puzzle, we really need to create more and more career offices, if I can call it, right? Regeneration is a career office, ACG has a good career office, but it seems to me that there are disconnects in this flow of this triangle. So the more we work together, we can bridge those gaps between employers, universities, graduates, and therefore put the right people in the right jobs and then give them the readiness that I talked about before to make sure they do well in their first job.
Absolutely. You just solved it. Final question I'll ask each of you. If you had to name one skill that's in short supply in Greece right now, what would it be, and whose job is it to teach it? Ed, let's start with you.
Okay, well, I'll reiterate a version of what I said earlier, which is the skill that I think is a slightly different version of the curiosity and character question, which is, I think, what's maybe most lacking is a comfort with ambiguity, right? That this is a skill you can develop, is a sense of, I don't know what my job's going to look like 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now. I don't know what the path is. I don't know how I'm going to get there, right? And one of the things that I've been here a year now. One of the things that has been really surprising and very clear to me, particularly among the way families think about education, is that there's this idea, I think, common in Greece of, I started at 15, I've got an idea about I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, right? And 10 years from now, that's what I'm going to be. And then my goal is to do that for the next 40 years and retire, right? That everything should be very clearly defined. I want step A, step B, step C, step D, and then it ends up here. That is not how you develop talent, right? So if we could develop the skill to be just comfortable with, I don't know what's going to happen next, but I know I have the enthusiasm and the flexibility and the capacity to adapt to that, and I'm excited by that, right? That's the skill we need to develop, and it's our job to develop it.
So you go
And
from a
schools
Harvard
generally.
professor to a student. Simos, what's your answer? The one skill missing, and whose job is it to teach it?
That's a really tough question, Mike. But I would say I'm probably answering the same thing that Ed said, but the flexibility and the comfort with uncertainty, not knowing, I'm going to try to do something, and I say that to young people that come talk to me. My friend's kids usually comes, he wants to be a biologist or he wants to go to Wall Street, and what's the first job they should get? And I say, it doesn't really matter. And I want to tell my kids that are 16 and 14, I don't care, my wife is a professor of engineering, and she's pushing them into engineering, and I said, don't listen to mama.
That's dangerous, by the way.
I know, I've been in trouble. I said, find what you love. Find what you love, because then you're going to be good at it. I found what I really loved at 32. So it's okay if you don't know now, and it's okay if you study finance and then you go to medical school, or vice versa. So comfort with uncertainty, confidence in yourself, and the other thing is network. Almost every job that I ever got was through somebody knew me and said, oh, you should talk to Simos. And I'm a terrible networker. I'm the worst at parties. I'm always talking to people that I know. I don't go up to people. So if you have one skill, go be aggressive and go meet people and ask them, can you introduce me to somebody? I think I should say that's the number one skill. Try to network as much as you can.
Nico, you have the final word.
Yes, I'm going to say the same. Probably, for me, the word that both described is learning agility, really. But let me give another angle here. As I've managed a number of countries in my career, Greeks have a huge competitive advantage related to learning agility. And I notice now, being in THI, not only Greeks, but also Greek DNA, Greeks abroad, really have a lot of learning agility. Unlike, for example, Germans or North Europeans, or others which are a little bit more rigid. So we have this DNA advantage of learning agility, but we need to make sure that the graduates go through exercises where they can test it. For example, in all my interviews, my first question is, tell me about a failure you had, and how did you feel, and how did you react? That's a critical question to understand learning agility. But we don't do it often, right? Most of the time. So learning agility and really helping people get to understand their level of learning agility and then help them out.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time today, your thoughts, and all that you do for Greece. Let's give them a round of applause.